What's going on, baby? It's me, Mr. Glasses, back at it again. With the truth is the truth, period. Fuck all that bullshit. I'm just here just to enlighten those that's not enlightened that need to know. We being played. We being played by the elite assholes when the truth matters to the point where common sense is you'll know better. You just know it's just crazy. People just going along to get along with shit that don't make no sense. Hello?
Please hold. No, I'm looking for John Marco.
How many times y'all gonna call me, man? You saying shit.
Sorry, sir?
I said, how many times are y'all gonna call me with the same shit, man? I can't get no benefits.
Right, it's actually not to benefit you, it's because we have a balance that is past due.
Oh,
You
oh,
still insist on 49 cents.
oh, okay. What now? What is this about?
We have your service address 3800 Canfield Street, Department 403, for DXC Commission. And we have that balance left that is past due.
I don't have no balance with y'all.
I'm sorry, sir?
How could I have a balance with y'all?
I'm sorry, sir, I cannot understand.
I said, how can I have a balance with y'all? Baker Ripley pays my lights.
Well, it's the balance that we have left. The account is closed and we have that balance left.
Like I said again, man, how can I have a balance with y'all when Baker Ripley pays my lights, man?
Oh, it's for the last day of service. It's actually disabled.
Okay, listen to me carefully, bro. If Baker Ripley pays my bills, I don't have a light bill. Baker Ripley pays my bills. So, what are you talking about?
I'm talking about this people who have been.
A bill that y'all have pending.
Yes, sir.
Now say it again. And what is the bill for?
TSU Energy Electric.
No, man, I don't have no bill with no TXU Energy. Like I
Yes,
just
sir.
told you, well, how could I have a bill with you guys when Baker Ripley pays my bills for me, man? And what and what
We
is
have this bill
and what is your
your
name
account
again?
is being risk of being sent to collection.
Okay, and
What
what is
number
your
is it, sir?
and what is your name again?
My name is Sergio.
Okay, and what company is this that you calling from?
TSU Energy.
Okay, now I'm recording this here, man. I shouldn't owe y'all a quarter if
Please
Baker
hold that
Ripley.
to be recorded, sir.
Okay, Baker Ripley, yeah, but y'all won't allow me to get the tape from y'all. That's why I gotta have my own tape. So you telling me that I owe you guys when Baker Ripley pays my light bill and my light bill is oh.
This comes up to be on a recorded line, sir. So if you want to continue, I can connect you with the supervisor if you want.
Hold on. Say that again. You saying that I can't record y'all? Is that what you saying?
Yes.
Hold on. Y'all can record me, but I can't record y'all. See, I just go to show y'all that y'all bunch of bullshit. So like I said again, put your supervisor on
Your
the phone.
connection is a little. Right, I will connect you right. Please hold.
Okay, waiting on the phone all the damn time. But anyway, before I was interrupted by them with their bullshit, back to what I was saying.
Happened. Where exactly inside the West Wing the substance was discovered?
Can you explain to the American people who would have access to the West Wing?
Have you made any White House officials available for interviews with law enforcement?
Will any White House staffers be undergoing drug testing as part of this investigation?
And would there then be consequences either for that individual or if they were a guest of a White House staffer? Did you get any?
Well, gentlemen, hope you like gentlemen too.
Boy, them would be commercials be tripping, boy.
Found cocaine in the West Wing and how it got there.
I would have to refer you to the Secret Service on all of this. But one thing that I can share, that I'll share a little bit more information.
She gonna share that information.
The president and
You'd have
the
been,
first lady and their
it'd have been
family
best for
were
you
not
to be
here
quiet
this
about
weekend.
that.
And here's the president yesterday during the meeting with Sweden's prime minister.
On deck, former Utah Congressman and Fox News contributor Jason Chaffetz. But first, we're going to go to White House correspondent Jackie Heinrich. You asked a great question of the president, about the president, and whether how seriously he takes, the investigation and the answers, and you got dodged. She dodged your question. You had to actually ask it a second time.
Yeah, and I'm going to play it for you right now, Julie. The president, though, was silent when he was faced with this question, meeting in the Oval Office with the Swedish Prime Minister about that country's NATO bid ahead of the summit next week. But evidently, the president did get a readout on what happened.
How determined is the president to get to the bottom of brought illegal drugs to the White House?
Secret Service is getting to the bottom of it, and that's what matters, and it's under their purview.
But the question was, how determined is the president?
So the president thinks it's very important to get to the bottom of this. That's why Secret Service, which is under their purview, is looking into this.
Now, Fox can confirm Secret Service is conducting fingerprint and DNA tests as part of their probe. They're also reportedly looking at security footage and White House visitor logs. But the incident highlights potential security gaps and concerns a more dangerous substance like anthrax could potentially slip through. House Oversight Republicans are pointing out that they have jurisdiction over Secret Service also, and they're demanding a briefing.
We have concerns about national security risk. Obviously, there are a lot of explanations that could be made for what happened there. But at the end of the day, with all the money and all the security that we have around the White House, something like this should never happen.
The Secret Service says the cocaine was found in a personal belongings cubby used by guests and staffers in the West Wing, and White House officials would not say yesterday whether the working theory is that a guest brought it in, but they did emphasize many times that the discovery was made in an area that is heavily trafficked by visitors. They would not weigh in on whether the administration would support charging the offender or whether staffers in the White House will now be drug tested, saying that the investigation first needs to play out, Julie.
All right, Jackie Heinrich, thank you very much. So as you just heard there, Republicans want answers about the investigation. Senator Tom Cotton is demanding full transparency for the American people. In a letter to the Secret Service director, he laid out a series of questions he wants answered. They include who can access the West Wing with no security or reduced security procedures, circumstances where security chooses not to use sniffer dogs on visitors. How many times in the last 5 years security found illegal drugs at the White House? And if they find the person responsible, will there be an arrest? Jason Chaffetz, former Utah Congressman and Fox News contributor, also the author of the new book, Puppeteers, The People Who Control America, joins me now. Jason, I'm so glad we get to talk about this. There are so many questions, but what irritates me the most is the demeanor in which the press secretary answers these reporters' questions. Rather than answering all of them, they are very legitimate questions. Cocaine made its way into the White House. Next, it could be anthrax. Okay, these are serious questions, but instead, she's more interested in covering the Bidens and telling us that the Bidens were not home or in the White House at the time that it was discovered. That's completely irrelevant. They were there before it was discovered and after. Hunter Biden was, in fact, at Camp David 2 weekends in a row with his father. These are legitimate concerns of the American public.
Oh, absolutely. You're 100% right. Look, my understanding, and I've been in that setting, in that very place multiple times. And Ari Fleischer pointed out last night as well, the former press secretary for President Bush, that it's not just an open cubby where anybody can walk by and do these types of things. It's actually manned by the uniformed division of the Secret Service. You would hand it to a Secret Service officer who would put it in the cubby. I do not believe for even 1 minute that the Secret Service doesn't already know who had access and that they've narrowed it down to just a few people that are going and traveling there. Look, there's an outside perimeter of security. They have badges. Everybody has a badge. There are multiple cameras going on. You don't just get to walk around.
We're traveling through the country to connect with different musicians. Our goal is to write
and Representative
Around the West Wing, keep your staff without a heavy presence of the Secret Service and a distinct understanding of who's going where and why. And so I think they already know where it is. I think they're trying to wait for the DNA evidence. That doesn't happen in just a half a day or a day. But the Secret Service, I do believe, knows at this point who this person is.
I mean, if you look at the way that they're handling it right off the bat, they're making it seem suspicious. We're not, I mean, we're just asking questions, the reporters that are there in the press pool, right? But then if you look at all the other networks, for example, all the major broadcast networks last night, they all led with the cocaine found at the White House. Not one broadcast mentioned the name Hunter Biden. Now, we're not saying it's Hunter Biden's. We're calling it for what it is. The president's son is a former crack cocaine addict. And he's supposed to be clean. He just was given a slap on the wrist for charges that should have been felony charges. Why? Because he's the president's son. So preferential treatment obviously is a very sensitive topic when it comes to his son. And indeed, cocaine was found in an area in the White House where Hunter Biden has visited. So, of course, that's going to be a question. And there's no room for joking about it. All the other networks making these stupid jokes about it. There's no laughing matter. Crack cocaine addiction is serious. And this is a serious drug that was found in our White House.
Yes, and I heard one of those reporters talking about, well, nobody got hurt. What about the development, transport, and all of the other? I mean, that is just a ridiculous assertion. It's a controlled substance. It's an illegal drug. It's a very serious matter, and they got to be able to show us, the Secret Service, that they mean business, that they know exactly what's happening and not happening. Because you're right. What if it was anthrax? What if it was some other substance? And you know, I'm glad. I hope they get to this at the quickest of times. But the clock's ticking, Secret Service. You owe the American people. You work for the American people. You don't just work for the President of the United States.
Right. What's very telling is when the press secretary was asked, will there be charges? Will you guys pursue whoever is responsible, whoever this belongs to? She wouldn't even answer that. The answer should have been absolutely you are not allowed to bring drugs into the White House. And anyone who did, we will pursue this investigation. Secret Service will find you and you will be punished. There was none of that. All right, I got to move on to something else. The president heading to deep red South Carolina today to talk up his economic record and green jobs, all part of his Bidenomics campaign push. He's facing, though, a tough sell with voters and with Republicans in Congress. Watch.
What is he going to tout? Is he going to tout high interest rates, high inflation, can't hire anybody, no supply chain? I'm a Main Street America guy. I own a business, been in business 52 years. This is as bad as I've ever seen it. So if he's going to tout that, it's a non-winner, but it also shows how out of touch they are with no business people in this administration and how out of touch they are with people that are trying to make payroll and do business. But if he's going to tout that, it's a loser and it's a joke.
One op-ed titled Bidenomics Spin versus Economic Reality says Americans, particularly working and middle-class Americans, are poorer today than they were during the Trump administration. A report in Bloomberg says the middle class's economic anxiety will decide the 2024 election. The outlet citing a study out of UC Berkeley, which, and I quote, the president has a middle class problem. The bottom line, more than $2 trillion in wealth held by the middle class has been eliminated since the Fed started hiking interest rates. And you can see how the Dow is sliding right now, down almost 500 points after Fed officials yesterday signaled yet another hike is likely. So we've got inflation and we've got rising interest rates. We've got $3 trillion the middle class has suffered in losses in 1 year. And yet the president is still touting his Bidenomics. And Democrats, every time I have a Democrat on the air talking about Bidenomics, they tout raising wages. A rise in wages means nothing when inflation is at such an all-time high. Why doesn't the White House acknowledge that this is a problem?
Well, you know what? The average American, they're not just one speech away from them. Oh, gosh, I guess I am better off. That's more Joe Biden at the microphone doesn't solve any problems. It usually makes them worse. And the reality is, until this administration reduces the cost of energy, this inflation is here to stay. But that is not part of their agenda. On day one, they sought to constrict the energy market. That's what caused so much of
Oil change anxiety. The stress of not knowing who to trust. But it vowed
to this inflation. Don't blame it on Putin. That's what they tried to do. They tried to do all these excuses along the way. The reality is the constriction on our ability to fuel our future and be energy independent is the reason that we're here today. They won't go there. Therefore, they're not going to solve the problem. American business understands that, and the consequence is they can try to spin it all they want, but that's all it is, a bunch of hot air.
A bunch of spin, you're right. Jason Chaffetz, thank you so much. Appreciate you coming on. 2 indictments and possibly more to come. New information on what that means for former President Trump when it comes to raising campaign cash. Plus, big concerns about President Biden's aid.
Stay trapped.
Ain't no big fucking concern. The fuck are too old?
And he's not gonna get younger.
Sure, he ain't gonna get no younger. Now he gonna play with my video now.
His challengers are flexing hard on that. Just about everyone showing off their physical prowess. Whichever party figures this out will have the upper hand next year. David Avella, GOPAC chairman, Dan Kinnanen, former Hillary Clinton senior advisor, join me now. All right, first of all, the fitness and the physical fitness, not necessarily crucial in voting in a president. You don't need to be able to do push-ups. But your mental fitness, that is what I think most people are concerned with. David, I'll start with you.
Julie, we've been told that an apple a day keeps the doctor away. I want to start seeing some ads where candidates are eating their apples and their fresh fruits. The reality, though, is Joe Biden could have, to your point, six-pack abs, and this country wouldn't still be moving in the right direction because his ideas are actually older than he is. And as much as voters have concerns about age or even mental acumen, they have concerns about every candidate. The reality is they're going to pick the candidate that they think most represents their ideas. And you think about who these both candidates, President Trump and President Biden, have as their strongest supporters. It's younger voters, because it's the only people they know in their limited time in politics, and it's what frames Republicans and Democrats for them.
Dan, there's a new op-ed with this headline, Cruel Summer. Biden faces bruising, few weeks of setbacks and scandal. It cites the cocaine found at the White House, that scathing report on Biden not acknowledging his 7th grandchild, Hunter's daughter, as well as his son's criminal charges. Those bruising Supreme Court decisions, his frequent gaffes, and the vice president's lowest polling.
Yo, what you need?
Ever. Are these not things that
Done.
concern the White
Shit,
House?
rise on the way.
Do they not see that clearly when he dodges reporters' questions like a perfectly average American just pointed out, just like we all notice, he doesn't even answer questions. It's almost like he doesn't have the wherewithal to process the question in order to give a coherent answer. That is concerning. And we're not putting down people in their 80s. That's not the point here.
Well, no, I think the thing to remember about Joe Biden, and it's easy to look at a couple of stories like that headline in the Washington Examiner and get caught up in what is a story of the moment like this package at the White House. I think that's going to last about 12 hours in the news cycle. The way he operates, always has, is slow and steady, long game, long view. That's the point of Biden economics in the first place. And what they've done over this first couple of years of the presidency is reestablish American manufacturing bit by bit to the point where we've had 300,000 new clean energy manufacturing jobs alone, and almost 1 million new manufacturing jobs across all sectors, and 13 million new jobs. They will continue playing the long game, piece by piece, building the economy, and creating a choice between him and Donald Trump, who I think will be the nominee on the other side, and that's a choice that we know Americans will make in favor of Joe Biden and the Democrats.
Speaking of Donald Trump, former President Trump's legal troubles seem to be boosting his White House run. First, his poll numbers, and now his fundraising. Despite 2 different criminal indictments and the possibility of more to come, the president's campaign and his PAC raked in more than $35 million over just the last 3 months. That's nearly double what it brought in during the January to March quarter before any of the charges. Governor Christie Noem on where that money is coming from. President Trump has millions of small donors that invest in him. They maybe aren't rich people, they aren't big donors, but they go out there and they use their hard-earned money to get a leader elected. I don't think any of the other candidates have that kind of commitment from the people that invest in them. David, I think that Donald Trump should send...
New Colgate Total Plaque Pro Release dissolves and lifts away plaque for 2 times less gum-harming plaque. So your dentistry.
Joe Biden a thank you letter, because I honestly think that Biden, the more and more that he's in office and the more things that get screwed up, he's just handing it over to Trump.
We know 2 things, Julie, from these numbers. One, that President Trump will have the number of small donors he needs to be on the Fox debate stage at the end of August, should he choose to participate. And 2, they have the resources to now say every other campaign's fundraising numbers will be matched up against what they put out, because they came out first. And it is what they're using those dollars for. You look at the fact that $70 million in super PAC money has already been spent, the majority of it by the Trump campaign, next DeSantis and then Governor Burgum in North Dakota, the 3 biggest spenders. But President Trump is able to define his opponent, hence why you see so many ads about DeSantis by the Trump campaign in Iowa and New Hampshire, and then on national cable buys. He's defining DeSantis before DeSantis gets to define DeSantis.
Yeah, but DeSantis, I mean, his polls obviously are not as high as Trump's, but he is very popular, and he's got a lot of money himself. I mean, there are super PACs that put their money behind Trump in the last election, and they've switched. They are putting their money behind DeSantis. The latest Fox News poll shows that Trump actually gained ground post-indictment, if you could believe that. In May, he had 53% support, and a month later, after he pleaded not guilty to 37 federal counts, he actually polled at 56% support. DeSantis, of course, is his closest competitor, but he trails Trump by 34 points. Dan, does that surprise you? Or is it just that people are so desperate for a change and they thought things were so much better when Trump was in there? Let's just go back to the good old times.
I don't think the electorate at large wants Donald Trump to be in the final contest. That's been proven in many, many polls.
Yes.
But in the prism of the Republican primary electorate, Trump has a stranglehold, has for a while, and continues to. And he's, to your point, he's making that stronger as we go forward. The whole premise of Ron DeSantis, and really any other Republicans running, is to be some other lane than Donald Trump in the Republican primary. And I don't think that lane exists, at least if it does. It's not been proven yet. The really interesting number in that poll that you just cited from Fox News was that the folks that would never vote for Trump was only 13% in the Republican primary, and that was the lowest of any of the candidates in the field. 35% said they'd never vote for Mike Pence. 14, 15, 16, 20% for folks like Nikki Haley and DeSantis and others. But Trump has the most fidelity, not just the strongest base, but the most fidelity in that party. I think the point about the fundraising is that he is clearly, as been mentioned, he's got a grassroots support within that base that I think is strong and will continue to be there for him. I think he's locking up the nomination for now. There's still time, but we've just not seen anything to knock him off at this point yet. I wonder what he's using the money for, though. I think certainly Super PAC ads would be wise for him to be out there dividing his opponents, but he's also siphoning off a bunch of cash for his legal defense. And in the previous campaign, he siphoned a bunch off for contractors and buddies who were making a bunch of money on his candidacy. So how efficiently they spend it is another question. I'm not sure it's going to help him that much in the general election, but I think in the primary context, he's winning. He's winning big.
Yeah, no, he is, and he's got the support. There's no question about it. Dan Kinnunen, thank you. David Avella, appreciate you both coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks, Julie.
So the White House shutting down questions about Hunter's daughter with an ex-stripper. A new report on the Biden's relationship with her causing all sorts of headaches. Plus, Republicans celebrating a legal smackdown of Team Biden's social media censorship.
We're now getting into the merits of the case and root out this vast censorship enterprise that President Biden has constructed that's a relationship of both coercion and collusion with big tech social.
The White House pushing back on the ruling, and they are reportedly ready to take it back to court. Tomi Lahren actually mentions that in that ruling. She's actually mentioned in it, Twitter, emphasizing public conversation. It also connects to Instagram in a move to roll in that app's 2 billion monthly users. Fox Business correspondent Kelly O'Grady to explain what's going on here. Hey, Kelly.
Hi, Julie. That's right. Meta is really taking a run at Twitter here. And Threads is already gaining traction. So we're learning that they've seen 30 million signups as of this morning. So that's less than 24 hours. Now, I tried it out for myself. The app is primarily text-based. And as you said, it links to your Instagram account. So I was actually able to keep my same username, follow the same folks that I already do with just one click. And that's why analysts are calling this a potential Twitter killer, because it will be able to leverage Meta's existing user base. Now, on launch, CEO Mark Zuckerberg shared his vision, emphasizing Threads as a, quote, open and friendly space for public conversation. But that does beg the question, well, who's deciding what's open and friendly? So some users are reporting that when they try to follow certain accounts, they're getting a prompt asking if they're sure that they want to follow them, along with a warning that that account has repeatedly posted false information. Twitter Files journalist Michael Schellenberger, he took it one step further. He's calling this censorship, accusing the platform of withholding transparency. And he says, quote, Mark Zuckerberg has promised us a better experience than Twitter, but he is censoring users and offering no avenue for appeal. Now, that experience is in stark contrast to the free speech haven that Elon Musk has claimed to be working towards, though Twitter is also navigating a lot of backlash, which, of course, the Threads launch is looking to capitalize on. Musk, though, he's already taken a subtle jab at the new app. He tweeted this: it's infinitely preferable to be attacked by strangers on Twitter than indulge in the false happiness of hide the pain Instagram. So, Julie, this really tees up the clash of the billionaires, but my question is whether these two apps will now bifurcate that town square even more, and people will just choose their own echo chamber. Back to you.
Good point. Kelly O'Grady, thank you very much. So the Biden administration is reportedly preparing to push back on a major court ruling. A judge found that officials likely violated the First Amendment with social media censorship. The judge said the White House censored information on issues like COVID, elections, and Hunter Biden. Several prominent administration figures and agencies are blocked from discussing censorship with social media firms. The White House with this clapback.
If you're asking me if we agree or disagree, we certainly disagree with this decision. And as I said, the DOJ is reviewing this, so I'm not going to get ahead of what their evaluation, what options they're going to potentially take on moving forward.
Republicans say the ruling is a victory for Americans, though. Watch.
Yeah.
I think that language reflects that this was a stunning rebuke, but also an appropriate one. And I will tell you, my take is that this is going to hold up on appeal. Americans' ability to engage in honest debate about it was suppressed. And so you have these agencies with social media working to suppress the truth and amplify lies.
A new op-ed argues the link between government and private censorship at its behest isn't well developed under law. So this could be a major test case. The plaintiffs are doing a public service by teeing up whether government can use the cover of private business to censor views it dislikes. Tommy Lauren, Fox News contributor and Outkick host, joins me now. Tommy, love you, and I'm so glad to have you. Tommy, you were actually named in this lawsuit. Congratulations. I think that is actually a tip of the hat to you. And it's also kind of sad. It's because you were using free speech. But it's conservative speech they hate, right? Journalist Greg Price finding an email from a White House official calling to censor you. How do you feel about that?
Well, we've known about this for quite some time now, and I have to say I am so happy that this lawsuit has been put forward, and I'm so happy with this judge's decision. It was a 155-page decision. I am on page 16 of this. And what this judge did is he really just detailed, line by line, all the areas of government collusion, big government, big tech working together to suppress information. And the judge also noted that the information happened to be, you're going to be shocked, Julie, primarily conservative speech made by conservative-leaning individuals. I fell in that category. But what was interesting about the way that the White House digital director tried to censor me is that he actually wrote to Facebook saying that I needed to be reduced on the platform simply because my post was getting a lot of traction saying that I personally wouldn't be getting the COVID vaccine. So if they want to argue all day, right, left, and center that they're combating misinformation or disinformation, I don't know how me saying I'm not going to get a vaccine could possibly qualify for that in their wildest dreams. But Facebook was happy to, quote, run that down and get that reduction rolling. So this decision is fantastic for the First Amendment for Americans. but we want to wait and see what consequences are actually going to be applied and what accountability will be taken.
If any, exactly. That's a great point. You know, the fact that the Department of Justice is going to appeal the ruling is extremely telling. Because this ruling bans certain federal officials and agencies from contracting. So we're talking about any speech here. We're talking about conservative speech. That is censorship. Okay, I don't care what you want to call it, but the White House press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, told reporters when asked about this that the administration disagreed with it, but she wouldn't directly respond to a question about censorship of...
America. It's been almost 250 years, and you know, we've seen some things. There have been challenges, injustices, people coming together, taking care of each other, building a better future. So in honor of
Bitch made it where I came up turning that fucking commercial off. That's fucked up. Fuck that bullshit.
Your story, your hopes, and your dreams for our nation. Because your story is the American story.
Bitches.
Clear sale.
That bitch made it where I commercial down there and I could turn the fucking commercial off.
Conservative speech.
Wow.
Of course she's not. We're not
making you see commercials now.
agree with us, we will silence you.
We'll show you how much YouTube has turned into the fucking regular fucking programming of TV.
Oh, it absolutely is. And the fact that the government wants this ability to control social media and big tech entities and have a direct line to them and have direct communication telling them what to censor, what to reduce, what to suppress, that should be concerning to all Americans regardless of your political affiliation, especially when it comes to something like COVID, right? The American people shouldn't be taking an ideological or a political stance on something like COVID. We should be able to have an honest discussion because all of our lives were impacted by it and the mandates. So the fact that they wanted to shut down that speech, that to me is the most dangerous.
Very dangerous. All right, gotta switch gears here. The White House is still refusing to talk about Hunter's child with his former assistant and ex-stripper. A New York Times report says the 4-year-old has yet to meet her father or grandfather, President Biden.
Wow.
The report also saying in strategy meetings, aides have been told that the Bidens have 6, not 7 grandchildren. The White House really doesn't want to talk about it. Watch.
There was a story in the New York Times over the weekend about Hunter Biden's daughter in Arkansas. Does the president acknowledge this little girl as his granddaughter? I don't have anything to share from here.
Twitter users not impressed with that one. One user writing, the Bidens hung a Christmas stocking with the dog's name on it, and the president won't acknowledge his own granddaughter? Another dripping with sarcasm. You can just feel the empathy and decency oozing. I mean, this is not only shameful for Hunter, but he's the son. He's got problems. We all know it. This is the president of the United States. He does have a 7th grandchild, and this little girl is going to grow up knowing that her grandfather wanted nothing to do with her. A poor and innocent 4-year-old beautiful little girl.
I wouldn't want that bitch last in any motherfucking way. Fuck a fucking Biden. They ain't never with a bunch of fucking criminals. Shit, they lived and turned the little grandbaby into a fucking criminal by putting money in her account and her getting a baby.
And she would have had to answer, but they gave her kind of the easy way out on this, and she doesn't discuss family matters, and I get that. But again, we all know Hunter, as you said, Julie, he's got his issues. But the big guy that's all about family and restoring morality and decency back to the White House, he won't acknowledge a 4-year-old little girl. You know, we're told time and time again that he defends Hunter because it's about a father's love. But that doesn't extend to Hunter's child and his own grandchild. There's no grandfatherly love he's willing to extend here. That, to me, is the most disappointing part of all of this. That little 4-year-old girl is an innocent victim in all of this.
I mean, there was a DNA test. This is a biological child. Therefore, it is a biological grandchild. And the fact that the president doesn't have the decency to acknowledge her, despite his own son's problem, okay? Fine. You slept with a stripper and got her pregnant. I'm so proud of you, Hunter. But nonetheless, that is my grandchild, and I'm going to do the right thing. I can't even believe we're having this conversation. Like, half the words that have come out of my mouth this week just talking about this White House is, like, truly jarring.
Oh, well, it is. Well, a couple weeks ago, you had a trans flasher on the White House lawn, and then you have cocaine found in the White House, and of course, you got the big guy who fails to acknowledge his own grandchild. So again, like I said, this White House told us that they were going to bring back all of this morality, this moral courage that Donald Trump ruined in his tenure in office. They're doing the exact opposite, and they're doing it shamelessly and brazenly, and it's really unfortunate. You know, this whole president also talks all the time about how the kids belong to all of us. They belong to the collective. Well, he won't even acknowledge his own grandchild, so I'm not sure what kind of parental advice we're going to take from him.
It's a real shame. I hope they do the right thing, especially with all the backlash.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah,
come on,
with that hope bullshit. When you hope, and hope comes, you don't hope no more. So hope is bullshit, just like all the rest of the bullshit they made up. It's a fucking shame how so many people can be programmed to not think for themselves. Mind-boggling.